Hello, this is section 1 of the study guide. I'm going to go through these problems with you. These are your exponent properties. So everything we're trying to do, we're trying to make simpler, applying one of those properties that we know. So when I look at this first problem right here, I'm going to start with those parentheses. There's more than one right way through these types of problems, but if you stick to PEMDAS, you're never going to go wrong. So PEMDAS says always try parentheses first, and in this case there's nothing in there to simplify. No fractions that I could reduce, no variables on top and bottom that I could cancel. So instead I'm going to jump to exponents. So this 3 outside, this cubed, is going to go to everything inside. So to the 2, to the x, to the 5, and to the y cubed. So 2 cubed is where I'm going to start. That's 8. That's 2 times 2 times 2. And then x cubed. Oops, forgot it. Then I have 5 cubed, that is 125. So 5 times 5 times 5. And then y cubed cubed, anytime you have one exponent to another exponent, you're going to multiply those. So that's y to the 9th. Now I'm going to bring down my times 5, x squared y. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this problem up with multiplication. So we did parentheses, exponents, now we're on multiply. So I've got a fraction times another fraction. So I'm going to go right across the top and right across the bottom. So top times top, bottom times bottom. So I've got 8 times 5, so that's 40. I'm going to tack on that x cubed right there at the end. Then I've got 125. I'm going to bring that over. And then I'm going to go next to my x squared because x, so variables we like to put in alphabetical order. So x was the next thing. And then my y's. I've got a y to the 9th here and a y over here. So that's going to be y to the 10th when we're all done. So they had a little ninja 1 right there. And we're multiplying these two y's together. That means we're going to add the exponent. So anytime you see more than one y and more than one variable, you're going to add those exponents together. Now, we're almost done. Now that we have a fraction, we should try to divide what we can. So reduce. And I see right here, I've got 40 over 125. Those are both divisible by 5, so I need to reduce those just a little bit more. So really that is 8 over 25. Now my y to the 10th is fine, but I see x's over x's. That means I can always cancel the smaller amount by subtracting from the larger amount. So all of them are gone on the bottom and they're now just left on the top, just one of them left. And my y to the 10th right there. Now if I could draw you a picture of this cancellation, remember x cubed is x times x times x, and that's over x squared, which is x times x. So it happened where 2 of these canceled and we were just left with that 1 right there, right on top like we said. Now we're all done with that. We can circle our final answer, so that is 8x over 25y to the 10th. Now our next one here, we've got a monomial times a monomial. Again, there's different ways through it, but I'm going to start right in my parentheses. I'm going to see what I can simplify as much as I can. So right here, I see a base with a negative exponent. That means that one base is on the wrong side of our fraction. So I need to put my 4b in my numerator. That's actually where it is right now. And it's my c to the 5th that needs to move down to the denominator. So this c is going to move down here, and once it moves, it's now positive. You've simplified this. Now I'm going to multiply this by this 3b squared. Now I put that up top because we've got a fraction over here. To multiply that with another fraction, I need to make it a fraction. So this right here became negative 3b squared over 1. And we only did that because we have another fraction over here to multiply it with. So now it's top times top, bottom times bottom. So I get negative 12. That was my 4 times my negative 3. I've got a b here and another 2 of them here. So that's b cubed. Let me show that to you in a picture. That's b times b squared. So that's just 3 b's all together when we're all done. Let's continue on here. Where was I? I did this part. Now we need to multiply that bottom. 1 times anything is just whatever we started with. So there's our final answer. Now we have a couple more, so let's move on to the next one. PEMDAS says start in those parentheses again, simplify where you can. I've got an m to the negative 2. I cannot have negative exponents. So I'm going to move that m down to be with that 3. Now I have to show that something's up top, so I'm going to put my 1 in, my filler right there. And then I'm going to also make sure I have that all to the 4th power, the negative 4th power. Now I've handled everything in my parentheses, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this negative 4. And to do that, I'm just going to flip my entire fraction around. So my 3m squared is on top, my 1 is on bottom, and it's to a positive 4. Now at this point in my next step, I'm going to drop this 1 down here. I don't need a 1 in the denominator. So I really have 3m squared all to the 4th power. Now I'm going to give out this exponent to everything inside. So that's 3 to the 4th, which is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, that's 81. And then m squared to a 4th, exponent to exponent. Make sure you always multiply one exponent to another. So it's 81 m to the 8th. Let's go over to number 4 next. Again, where do we get started? First off, I'm going to stick this 1 in there. So that's just not a negative, that is a negative 1 sitting there. And I'm going to start in these parentheses by getting rid of that negative exponent right there. So I'm going to say this is negative 1x all over y to the 4th to the negative 2. And then we've got this xy over here to multiply it with when we're done. This is a negative 2, so I need to flip that around. So I've got really y to the 4th all over negative 1x squared. And don't forget that we have this times xy still over there. Now I'm out of room, so I'm going to grab a little bit more paper over here. Here we go. And I'm going to continue on right onto this. Now, next thing, I got to handle that exponent. So this squared right here, everything in here needs to be squared. So exponent to exponent is going to multiply, so that's really y to the 8th. Negative 1 squared, a negative times a negative is a positive, so that just becomes a positive 1, and we can really drop it at that point. And then I have x squared. And it's going to be times this xy. I can drop these parentheses because we've just got multiplication left. They're not doing anything. I am going to put this over 1 again, just like I did the number 2, because I've got a fraction times a number, so I need to make that another fraction. Now I can go across and multiply. So I have y to the 9th. I'm going to put my x in front, so it's alphabetically. And then over here, 1 times 1 is still 1. I'm just going to drop it. It's a ninja. And I've got my x squared. We are almost done on this one. It has more steps than it originally looked like it was going to have, because I've got to reduce this x right here. So I'm going to cancel out this 1 from the top by subtracting from the bottom. So I really have y to the 9th over x. And there you go. All right, so let's look at number 5. All right, number 5, we've got everything in here squared. There's nothing in here specifically that I can change around yet, so let me just square everything. A negative 4 squared, that's negative 4 times negative 4, that's positive 16. My x squared is just x squared. I've got a square on another square, so we're going to have to multiply that, so that's y to the 4th, and then I get another z squared. And there we go, all good. Our next one, I've got a fraction, so I'm going to try to reduce what I can. I see 12 over 6, that's going to become 6 over 1. So those were both divisible by 6. Then I've also got this negative exponent. That should move up. So any time you see a negative exponent, just flip whatever side of the fraction it's on. So I really have a c to the 9th and a c to the 5th on top. Let's simplify this just a little bit more. I don't need this 1 in the denominator, so I'm going to drop it off. I've got that 6, and I've got 2 c's, so it'd be simpler just to add those together and say that's c to the 14th. Now I'm adding them because that's multiplying. Anytime we try to multiply 2 bases together like that, we're going to add the exponents to put those all together. And you're done. Simplified. All right, our last 2. We've got a negative exponent right here. So I'm going to have to flip the whole thing. So this is going to become 1 over 2xy all to the positive 3rd now. Now that that's a positive exponent, I can give that to everything inside. So my 2 cubed is going to become 8. So that's 2 times 2 times 2. And then I get my x cubed and my y cubed. So that's 1 over 8x cubed, y cubed. And finally, number 8. I see something with a 0 exponent. Remember, anything to the 0 power is 1. So this into the 0 is 1. However, my entire problem is not equal to 1 because this is still 4m times 1, or just 4m. So anytime you see something to the 0 power, you can basically just mark off that one thing. Now, the only way to expand that is to put some parentheses, but in this case, we didn't have that. All right, so check out the other videos to see the rest of the study guide.